welcome back to Circles of Hope. And again, this is a program designed to really deal with any issues in your life so that we can all become whole beings and as this sermon today, be in God's image. What does God see you as? We are always trying to figure out what we're doing, but have you ever asked God, what image did He make for you? And when He's talking to you, He knows exactly what He designed you to do, what He designed you to look like. And the vision I get is how we look in our eyes and the figure is turned upside down. This is something how our eye transposes. Well, God sees us in the image that He made us to be. And we sometimes don't take the time to really find out what is that image. How does God see you? I told you I would be giving you a devotional from this little book called Jesus Calling. And this one is the one that I'm taking this message off of. It says, "But I designed you to live in union with me. This union does not negate who you are, actually makes you more fully yourself. When you try to live independently of me, you experience emptiness and dissatisfaction. You may gain the whole world and yet lose everything that really counts. Find fulfillment through living close to me, yielding to my purpose for you. Though I may lead you along paths that feel alien to you, trust that I know what I am doing. If you follow me wholeheartedly, you will discover facets of yourself that were previously hidden. I know you intimately, far better than you know yourself. In union with me, you are complete in closeness to me. You are transformed more and more into the one I designed you to be." So that's really kind of my text right there, is who did God design you to be? Taking this on a personal, who do you see yourself as? I think that's one of the things that always amazes me, is you see these beautiful people who somehow have this self-image of themselves that they're not this, they're not that. They're always constantly trying to improve themselves. And I always wonder, what is it that they see when they look in the mirror? Because you're looking at somebody from our standpoint would be a beautiful person. And I have to go back to my modeling days. I modeled and actually became a modeling instructor. But the person who trained me would always tell us that we were the model, and he would always say that it was kind of like, you could say you're a model because you can say anything about yourself, but he was always saying that a model is an example of, when you're actually looking at a fashion show, what are they looking at? They're looking at the example of the clothes that whoever that designer is, and these people are putting those clothes on to model them for you. And the other part of that is, really, a model is someone who models the life that you want to live, or that you somehow inspire them by what you do in your life. And so, to take on that term, we see these sports players, and we saw the Olympians, and all of these people who strive for excellence in things that they do. In doing that, they become models for other kids. How many times during the Olympics did we hear people say, "I watched Mark Spritz years ago, and he's the reason why I'm swimming today"? Or the lady who skates and says, "Well, I watched her when I was a little girl and now I'm skating." I heard that a lot from people that were talking about my husband. They say he was the father, he was the husband, he was the employee that was a model for a lot of other people. And so you ask, what is it that people look at? I find that a lot of people don't understand that beauty comes from inside. We all think it's this outer appearance, but how many have seen somebody that you wouldn't think physically, if you looked at them, think that they're pretty, but somehow when you're in their presence, they project such a way to you that you wouldn't even think of them as not being pretty because their personality is pretty. I have had the opposite happen. Somebody who I thought was very beautiful, but they had just such a bad attitude that I kind of backed up and realized, oh, they're not that pretty or nice, you know. But I really want you to ask yourself, who do you think you are? I know Michael Jackson has the song "The Man in the Mirror," and I used to always, he says, before I can change anybody else, I've got to change who I see in the mirror. And he probably was one of those people that I truly believed had the disease, that he never looked in the mirror and saw a good image. That's why he was always trying to change himself and covering up and doing things, is because he just didn't have, there's actually a disease where they look in the mirror and they see like a distorted picture. But I'm more looking at your inside and like, who do you think you are? If you ask a man, 9 times out of 10, they will tell you whatever they do for a living, that's who they are. And women are kind of just the opposite. They'll tell you, oh, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a school teacher. They look at kind of what they do or who they are in relationship to other people, is how women tend to think. And men seems to think in accordance to their work. When men don't have work, they tend to have very low self-esteem. Whereas women, a lot of times, their self-esteem is, the problem women have is that they don't take time to deal with themselves. They're dealing with everybody else. And sometimes you really do have to stop and be with yourself. And I think that's what the scripture is saying. He says, no, if you come and talk to me and let me help you see what I see in you. Maybe you're overweight. Maybe he knows the exact weight you should be. And maybe he can tell you how to become the exact weight you should be. But what I find is that people take all those things that are not right with themselves currently and use that as some type of, oh, well, my hair is not right. Oh, I'm overweight. I really should exercise. Well, I wear an 18 and I really should wear a 10, and they're constantly, I know people that needed a bigger size and wouldn't go to a bigger size because their self-image of somebody, let's say, that wore a 14 and maybe they were a 10, but they'd still wear the 10s even though they're too tight because they didn't want to be the image of a 14, size 14. And I'm just the opposite. It's like being a big person all my life. When I was a kid, I want to say I almost wore adult clothes. I know I had to wear adult shoes. I started wearing heels when I was 9 because my body was fully grown, but I was 9, and so people were trying to put me in 9-year-old clothes, and my feet and everything else didn't fit that image, and so they finally had to start dressing me a little bit older just so I didn't look so awkward. Now, that comes into a lot of problems these days with people being too young or whatever. But to me, it's that being in your own zone, wherever you are now. Let's say you do see yourself as a thin person, whatever your dream of yourself is. And what I'm saying is they won't live in where they are right now. You could be a size 24 right now and still be beautiful. If you put on your clothes, wear them correctly, like I said, don't be too big or too small. like I said, change with whatever. If you're starting to lose, go ahead and go down a size so that you're not like I say, it's worse to have on clothes that are too big, and it's worse to have on clothes that are too tight, because it always looks like you're coming out of them. But that's important to your self-image. And so when you're looking at yourself, I want you to go inside yourself, and that's kind of what the scripture, the devotional was talking about. If you take the time to be with Him and ask the Lord, what is it that you need to do? Sometimes it's very little things, but it's a process of getting to that. But most people have such a bad self-image of themselves. You look at love relationships, people that kind of constantly fight to get approved and appraised, whether it's their work or their boss or their spouse, that they're constantly trying to have somebody, and I think the term we talked about before was validation, is to be validated by saying, oh, you look nice, oh, that's a pretty dress. It's always something that's there that people always look for. And so for me, it's kind of looking, is there something you could do to help validate somebody else? If somebody does look nice, say they look nice. If they have on something, be aware of other people and have that type of looking back at them where they actually, you might have said something that made their day. I've been dealing with 2 situations where people's self-image of themselves today goes way back to what a parent said to them as a child. And looking at that, I'm like, wow, if this parent had maybe just did a little more praising instead of a little less, we tend to, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you're this, you're that. And instead of saying those what I call negative words, I was at a soccer game with my younger grandboys yesterday, and they're 6 playing on the soccer field, and one of the things I kept hearing was, oh, you did good, Johnny, that's great, Johnny, and so they were kind of calling out the kid's name, that was good. And it was kind of like the parents' way of reinforcing to them that they were at least doing the right thing. And even when they were doing something wrong, you would hear something like, that was a good attempt, Johnny, And so that was the way. And the kids are kind of like, that's where they're getting their self-esteem from, is because somebody is praising them for what they're doing. And I'm saying, how much more as adults could we do if we just kind of gave some positive reinforcements to people? I heard, I think it was Oprah that was saying that she had one teacher who really thought she was very good at whatever it was she was doing, either writing papers or whatever it was. And she said she took that to heart, and that became her thing that she held on to. I heard, and as people were telling stories about my husband, that they said, well, he talked to the Boy Scout troops and he told them all about aviation and the Air Force, and he's been doing this for years. So the one lady was saying, she said, I had 4 or 5 kids come out of that Boy Scout troop that actually did go into aviation, whether it was flying or going into the field or they went into the Air Force, all because of what he said. And so that tells you how sometimes just one word, hearing one person say something positive, a lot of times it might be the thing that pulls to your heartstrings. I heard Benny Hinn say that he would get so excited over the Catherine Kuhlman, and he couldn't understand how come other people couldn't get that excited about it. And he was kind of like, I would tell him, look, and he would just be so excited. And they would look at him like, okay. Well, what he was saying was that Catherine Kuhlman, because she was doing a healing ministry, which is what he was called to do, that somehow, if you call it, remember the story of Jesus and John were both in, Jesus' mother and I guess it's Elizabeth's, John's mother, were both pregnant, and when they walked into the room together, the babies started talking, like getting excited because they realized that they were, I don't know, whatever. I say spirit to spirit. Even in neural, their spirit connected. And it's that same type of thing. Sometimes something that you like to do and something somebody else likes to do, you're drawn to that person because of that. And so you might have a brighter connection, or be able to talk to that person at length's end because they're talking about something that really interests you. And so again, that's a lot of how do you know what you're supposed to be. Again, if you're listening to God, but also listen to your heart, because most times God will have in you that inkling that when you do come around something that you're supposed to do. I heard somebody was talking about photography, and they were saying, I got my first camera when I was about 10 and I just loved it. I couldn't stop doing it. I took pictures of everything, the ant crawling on the ground, they were just so excited with that camera. I've seen other people who, like you say, love to dance. We put my granddaughter in a summer program where it was all dance and drama, and she just came alive. It's like, where has this been all my life? It's just something that she loves to do. So you have to look at those things help develop your character as who you are. If you're constantly walking around doing something that you don't enjoy, or you're always, as the thing said, you'll be dissatisfied because somehow you might be doing it, but it's not doing anything for you. And so you have to kind of work at trying to find what really does work for you, and finding a place in yourself where you can be happy with who you are, where you are right now. If you look in the mirror and you see things, characteristics, or things that you're not pleased with, that's when you ask the Lord, I yell a lot. Help me not yell so that I won't. Again, yelling might have hurt somebody's feelings, that now that person has a thing in them about people yelling at them. So as a person, can I be better if I learn how not to do something that might be not a bad thing, but you can look at something that's very minute, but it might, if you just change that one thing, and I'm a total believer in working on the one thing first till you accomplish it. Do you know it only takes 3 weeks, 21 days to change a habit, good or bad? That it's something about the repetition of doing it. If you do it for the whole 21 days, it becomes a habit. I think that's a lot of what the military does. What is the first thing they do? They bring them in, kind of strip them of all the habits that they have, and then build them back up with the kind of habits they need them to have, the discipline, the walking the right way, walking in uniformity. You can see a new troop and one that's been experienced, and you can see the difference in how they sync together the more they've been together. And you can take somebody, same thing with modeling. We used to have, if somebody who really knew what to do, you could put them in any crowd, in any performance, and they always knew what to do, even if they had to adapt to maybe this designer wanted it this way and this designer wanted it that way. But if they knew the basics, they could always pull out. They knew how to turn. They knew how to walk in unison with somebody. They knew how to pass somebody. These were all skills that were taught. And once you learn them, like you said, new person, they fumble. They think, I should have did this, I should have did that. But as you get more experienced in something, you kind of, it looks so natural, and it looks like you don't even see it or notice that they did it, because it becomes a natural pattern. Same thing with your own self-esteem. It's like, as you carry yourself just a little bit better, hold your head a little bit higher, think, as you walk out the door, I look good today. Well, that's your affirmation to yourself. As you go through the day, maybe somebody else notices, maybe they don't. You're projecting. And that projection is what modeling is. It's projecting who you are. If you're going out for a job interview, how you project yourself is what people tend to look at. Not, they love the piece of paper, oh, here's my resume, here's what I did. But they much rather hear what you can say inside of yourself. Well, when I was at this job, I helped design this form because we were always having a hard time finding it. So I designed a program that will help this. And people go, oh, really? So what you do then becomes, and as you talk about it, and as you have pride in what you do, that pride is projected, and people go, oh, well, she knows what she's talking about, or she knows how to do things, or she knows how to get things done, because you start reaffirming in yourself those things that are good. To me, writing the resume is only you trying to sit down and capsulize everything that you have done. And then when you go to an interview, it's a way of bringing all that out into your personality, that person wants to hire you. I remember as a teenager, my high school was downtown, and there was a downtown store, kind of a lot like your Macy's was here, well, Rich's was here. And they were saying, they just kept turning people away. They said, no, they weren't hiring. And I came dressed for the occasion, and the lady saw me and kind of like, no, come on in, let me talk to you. And as I started talking, she went, oh, you really have a great personality. This would be something that we could use. Even though they had just sent people away and said they didn't have any jobs, she hired me on the spot. And I think it was because I projected myself. I think I was 17 at the time. I know I'm only 17, so I didn't want to look like I'm a teeny bopper. I really came in looking like I'm serious about wanting this job. And they believed me, and they looked and said, now she's serious. And that's why a lot of times when I do job interviews, I look at the people. Did you bother to even change your basic clothes when you go to an interview? That comes across. People say, oh, they at least dressed up for the event. And that says a lot about you. The other thing in interviews is, like I say, it's this, what can you offer? I've been to so many interviews where they're saying, oh, well, how much does the job pay? What are the hours? It's not that those are not wrong things to ask, but you want to project to the employer what you can do for them. If you hire me, this is what I can do for you. And that's what people look for. And that's what I'm saying about image. Image is much more than just this outer looking. It's a personality. It's a way of you being positive and projecting yourself as a positive image that people want to be around. How many of you know what I call negative people, that every time you see them they go, well, yeah, no, my knee hurts and this hurts, and pretty soon there's a commercial where a lady has a broke arm and the lady just says, how are you today? And she starts telling her, well, I've had 3 surgeries and and the lady I ended up having lunch with her because she couldn't get away from her, and she's going, oh, all I wanted to know is how you were doing today. So in that perspective, it's like, present a positive image. Think of yourself. And what the scripture is saying, if you stick with God and let Him maybe show you those things that are not positive, maybe, like I said, whether it's weight, it might be a different way you can do your hair that will change how people perceive you. I had one lady I used to know, she used to always wear her hair back in a ponytail. and you never saw how really pretty her hair was and how she looked with her hair and her face, because she never, and just somebody just told her, so why don't you let your hair down? And you could just see the change in her when she started really curling her hair every morning, and it changed how people thought about her. So those are the type things that I was saying about imaging. And the other thing is, as you go through life and you meet somebody, a cashier, you just pass somebody on the elevator, how much, and I say about this presence thing, how much better are people because they've been in your presence? Are you projecting something positive that people go, oh, I just like being around her? And also think about your words. I talked about saying bad things to kids. Or you'll never amount to anything, or you'll never do this. And so you put those seeds in those children's head. And I've seen people 20, 30, 40 years still trying to get away from that image that person put in their head as a young child. But also, I'm trying to learn how, even in passing somebody, instead of just, they say, have a nice day, and you say, you too, or, is to really take that time and say something nice back to that person, whether it's, thank you for serving me today, or you be blessed. Well, that's actually a positive word. A blessing is a blessing. We don't realize sometimes the things we say with our mouths can actually have a profound effect on people around us. And one of my favorites, I think it was a family circle, I'm not sure, where people were just saying a bunch of negative things. And you know how in cartoons they have those little clouds look like where the words are, and the cartoon showed this street cleaner coming back and picking up all these bad negative words. As he's sweeping, he goes, who do they think's going to clean up this mess? Because we don't think about our words lasting and being there always, and that just being a positive reinforcement to somebody, just saying be blessed. I know you hear a lot of people that say, oh, I'm blessed. Well, that's, but be a blessing. Give something back to somebody. We used to send a note to somebody, just pick randomly and send a note that day to somebody. And we would always get words back. You don't know what that note meant to me. I was having a situation, and just because I got that note, it let me know that God cared. Or, just all these little things that can help project a better image for you to someone else, that it might help them have a better image of themselves. Or, like I said, we know that God has a perfect image. And if we'll just turn our sights maybe from the image we see and start looking and start working toward what God is showing you is that image, then you're going to become a better person. Hopefully you will project more positively to everybody. And you'll be so surprised how people respond to you if you're not responding negatively. Well, I think that's about our time for today, and I hope you got something out of this. And again, you're always welcome to send topics in. You can go to my website or my email. It's seaofhope@comcast.net and say, I watched the show and I would like you to talk about. And again, if it's something that I can't talk about per se, we will have guest speakers on different subjects coming in, and I might can find somebody to talk on that subject. So again, have a good evening today, and you be blessed today. Thank you.